Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how we do things around here. We pick a fascinating topic, something we think you might find useful, and we really unpack it, see what we can learn. Today, it's all about mornings.
Mornings, yeah, that time when we're all kind of stumbling around trying to get going.
Exactly, but what if there was a way to kind of hack those first few minutes so you wake up with way more energy and focus?
Well, there might be.
And to do that, we're going to be looking at some really intriguing research and resources from University 365.
Cool.
They've got some super insightful stuff on their pedagogy page, just a ton of information about the university itself and how they approach learning. And then we'll also be diving into a specific resource they offer. This is, it's called UNOP Neuro-Hack 01 Bright Mornings, the 2-minute Rise and Shine Routine. Quite a mouthful, but it really piqued our interest.
Yeah, I mean, anything that promises to help me rise and shine in just 2 minutes has got to be worth a look.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to unpack this whole Bright Mornings routine. It's also known as a UNOP Neuro-Hack, which we'll get to in a second, and figure out how it taps into these really cool principles of neuroscience and micro-learning. And ultimately, the goal is to arm you, our awesome listeners, with some practical steps you can take to really make your mornings work for you.
Love it. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's get this show on the road. First things first, we've got to address the elephant in the room, or maybe the acronym in the room. What exactly is UNOP?
Yeah, so UNOP stands for University 365 Neuroscience-Oriented Pedagogy.
Neuroscience-oriented pedagogy. So we're talking about how the brain learns. Right?
Exactly. And University 365, their whole thing is about integrating this understanding of neuroscience with artificial intelligence to basically help people become, get this, superhuman.
Superhuman, that's a pretty bold claim.
Right. But their idea is that by tapping into how our brains work best, and then using AI to personalize and optimize our learning process, we can kind of unlock this hidden potential. They talk about maximizing our brain power and really just getting better at managing our lives overall.
Interesting. So how does that actually play out in their programs and resources? How do they take this UNOP framework and turn it into, tangible things people can use?
Well, they've got this whole suite of evidence-based techniques.
Yeah.
And they're all about, incorporating things that have been proven to actually work. Like the Pomodoro technique, for example. You familiar with that one?
Oh, yeah, that's the one where you work in super focused bursts, right?
Exactly. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, that kind of thing. And they also use mind mapping, which is great for brainstorming and just organizing your thoughts. Yeah. And then they've got different strategies for memory enhancement.
It's like mnemonics and all that good stuff.
Exactly. And then, of course, good old-fashioned time management. They really emphasize that.
Makes sense. You've got to structure your time to actually put these techniques into practice.
Totally. And they also incorporate this thing called the Feynman technique, which is all about making sure you really understand a concept deeply enough to explain it simply to someone else.
I love that one. It's such a good test of whether you've actually grasped something or if you're just kind of skimming the surface.
Absolutely. And then, and this is where it gets kind of cool, they even incorporate things like binaural beats.
Oh, those are those sounds that are supposed to help with focus and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's this whole area of using sound to kind of influence your brain waves and potentially enhance your cognitive abilities.
Very interesting. So they're really pulling from all different fields.
Yeah, they're not afraid to experiment and see what works. They also, this is really key, they put a lot of emphasis on human coaching. So it's not just about technology, it's about that personalized guidance and support, and of course techniques for relaxation and stress management.
That's crucial. You can have all the brain-boosting techniques in the world, but if you're constantly stressed out, it's going to be hard to really function at your best.
For sure. And, their materials also mention these other acronyms, ULM and LIPS.
Right. And those kind of tie into this whole picture of optimizing your brain and your life.
Totally. So ULM stands for University 365 Life Management. And this is where they kind of zoom out a bit and acknowledge that it's not just about, being a super learner or having a super sharp brain. It's about really managing all these different aspects of your life.
Right. It's kind of like a holistic view of self-improvement.
Exactly. So ULM focuses on 6 key aspects of life: your body and health, your spirit and mind, your character and emotions, your social and love relationships, your career and finance, and then just your overall quality of life.
It's fascinating how interconnected all of those areas are, right? Like you can't really truly improve one without addressing the others.
Right. It's like this whole ecosystem. And then LIPS, that stands for Life Interest Project System. And this is all about managing the complexity of our digital lives. They talk about creating a kind of digital second brain.
Digital second brain, that's a powerful image. It's like having this external system to help you process and organize all the information that's constantly bombarding us.
Exactly. And they've got this framework called CARE, which stands for Collect Action, Plan, Review, Execute. Basically a structured way of managing all your stuff, all your projects and ideas.
Well, I like that. It's actionable.
It is. And they even offer this thing called UCopilot. It's an AI-powered coach and mentor you can access at 24/7.
Wow, so you've literally got an AI mentor in your pocket.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. So with all of that as our backdrop, this whole University 365 approach, the UNOP framework, how does this bright mornings routine that we're diving into today fit into this puzzle?
It's a great question. I think the Bright Mornings routine is a really good example of UNOP principles in action in a very practical, kind of granular way. It's presented as a 5MTS, which stands for, you guessed it, 5 minutes to success, micro-learning formula. It's about taking these neuroscience-backed techniques and making them super accessible and easy to implement.
So it's a micro intervention, essentially, a small change with potentially big results.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's break down the specifics. What are the actual steps involved in the Bright Mornings routine?
So there are 3 key steps, and it really only takes about 2 minutes to do the whole thing, although the material suggests you can extend it to around 5 minutes if you have the time. And the first step is to greet the light.
Greet the light. I like that. Sounds very poetic.
Right, so as soon as you wake up, you spend at least 1 minute, ideally more like 5, looking toward natural daylight. So you could be by a window, or even better, step outside.
So we're not talking about staring directly at the sun.
No, it's about indirect sunlight.
Okay, so what's the science behind this greet the light step? Why is morning light so important?
Well, it all ties back to our circadian rhythms, that internal clock that regulates our sleep-wake cycles and so many other bodily processes.
Right, our natural rhythm.
Exactly. And research from places like the National Institutes of Health has shown very clearly that exposure to morning light actually signals to our brains that it's daytime. It helps suppress melatonin production, that's the sleep hormone, and triggers the release of cortisol, which is associated with alertness and energy. So it's about syncing up your internal clock with the external world.
Right, getting your body on the same page as the sun. And they actually reference that specific research in their materials.
They do. They're very thorough about citing their sources. They also offer an alternative for people who maybe wake up before the sun or for those really dark winter mornings.
Right, like here in the Pacific Northwest, where sometimes the sun makes a very brief appearance if you're lucky.
Exactly. So the alternative is to use a high-intensity artificial bright light, like a special lamp or a light therapy device. Those can also provide a similar benefit.
Interesting. So you've got options.
You do. Okay, so we've greeted the light. What's next in our Bright Mornings routine?
I'm ready for step 2. Bring it on.
Okay, step 2 is called deep breaths. And for this one, you're going to do 2 to 3 physiological sighs.
Physiological size.
Yes, it's a specific breathing technique. And they recommend doing this for at least 30 seconds, with the ideal duration being around 2 minutes if you have the time.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How exactly do you do a physiological sigh?
So it involves this kind of double inhalation.
Mm-hmm.
You take a quick breath in, followed immediately by another full breath in, and then you have a long, slow exhale.
Oh, I think I've done those before without even realizing it's an actual technique, like when you're feeling stressed or something.
Exactly. And there's a reason for that. This technique has gotten a lot of attention lately thanks to the work of the Huberman Lab at Stanford. They've shown that physiological sighs can be really effective at kind of resetting your nervous system.
Oh, like a hard reset for your brain.
Kind of.
Hmm.
When you wake up, you might still be carrying some stress from the day before, or you might just feel groggy and out of it.
Yeah, that morning brain fog.
Exactly. So physiological sighs help to quickly expel excess carbon dioxide from your lungs. And that can trigger all these downstream effects: reduced anxiety, a sense of calm, and increased alertness.
So it's like a quick and easy way to shift your state.
Precisely. And again, University 365 cites the Huberman Lab's research in their materials. They're really backing up their recommendations with solid science.
It's always good to see that. So we've greeted the light, we've done our deep breaths. What's the final step in this morning power-up routine?
Step 3 is called mini stretch and vigorous tapping. This one should take at least 30 seconds. And again, ideally, you can extend it to 2 minutes if you'd like.
All right, so mini stretches, I can imagine what that might look like. But vigorous tapping, what are we tapping?
I know it sounds a bit out there, right? So you start with some gentle stretches, like rolling your shoulders, tilting your head gently from side to side, all while breathing deeply. And then you move on to the vigorous tapping part. This is where you use firm, rapid taps under each armpit.
Under your armpits?
Yep. And then you tap on the bony part of your elbow joint.
That's specific. And then to wrap it all up, you shake out your wrists and hands.
You got it.
Okay, so I've got to ask, what's the thinking behind the vigorous tapping? It sounds like it would definitely wake you up.
Yeah, it's definitely stimulating. The idea with the mini stretching is to gently reawaken your muscles after sleep and get your blood flowing. The vigorous tapping is likely meant to further stimulate the nervous system and increase your alertness and proprioception. That's your sense of your body in space. So the combination of gentle movement, deep breathing, and then this more intense tapping, it all helps to transition you out of that sleepy state and into a more awake and ready to go mode.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach to waking up your body and mind.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that all of this, all 3 steps can be done in under 2 minutes
Yeah.
if you're quick. And even if you take the full 5 minutes, it's still a pretty minimal time investment for the potential benefits.
Right. I mean, we're talking reduced grogginess, increased energy, potentially better mental clarity. Those are some pretty compelling outcomes, especially for something that takes just a few minutes.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the key strengths of this routine and really of the UNOP philosophy in general. It's all about practicality. No matter how busy your mornings are, you can probably find 1 to 5 minutes to fit this in. And you don't need any special equipment. It's all about using your body and your environment to your advantage.
I love that. It's accessible to anyone. So let's bring it back to the big picture. How does this seemingly simple Bright Mornings routine connect to the broader vision of University 365 and their UNOP framework?
Well, I think it really exemplifies their commitment to providing people with practical, science-backed tools for self-improvement. It's not just about theory. It's about giving you actionable steps you can take to actually make a difference in your life.
So it's about empowering people to take control of their own well-being.
Exactly. And remember their whole thing about becoming superhuman. This routine is a great example of how they're not talking about, some futuristic implants or genetic modifications. They're talking about maximizing our innate human potential by understanding and applying these principles of neuroscience.
So superhuman in this context is more about self-mastery and using what we know about our brains to live better.
Exactly. It's
Oh,
about pushing our own boundaries, but in a way that's grounded in science and respects our natural biology. And this Bright Mornings routine is like a microcosm of that. It's about taking conscious control of your biology, using simple techniques to optimize your state and set yourself up for a better day.
I'm really appreciating this focus on small, consistent actions leading to big changes. It's a much more empowering approach than trying to overhaul your entire life overnight.
I agree. And speaking of holistic approaches, how do you think this routine fits into their ULM framework,
Yeah.
the University 365 life management system we talked about earlier?
Well, it seems like it would directly support a couple of those key aspects of life that ULM focuses on, like body and health and spirit and mind. It's about starting your day by intentionally influencing your physical state, your energy levels, your nervous system, and also your mental state, your alertness, your focus.
Right. And by addressing those foundational elements right away, it can kind of create a ripple effect throughout the day, positively influencing all those other areas of life that ULM considers, like your relationships, your work, your overall well-being.
Right. It's about setting a more positive trajectory from the moment you wake up.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that this Bright Mornings routine is presented as a micro-learning formula. What's the significance of that in the context of UNOP?
So they call it a 5 minutes to success microlearning technique. And the whole point of microlearning is to break down complex skills and ideas into these bite-sized, manageable chunks that are easy to understand and implement. It's about avoiding information overload and giving people quick wins they can build on.
Right. It's like those aha moments that make you want to keep learning and exploring more. And in this case, the aha moment is like, wow, I actually feel more awake and focused after doing this 2-minute routine.
Exactly. And they're big on this idea that small, consistent actions repeated over time can lead to huge results.
Yeah.
And by incorporating this micro-learning technique into your morning, you're not only improving your state right then and there, but you're also potentially enhancing the effectiveness of all those other learning and productivity techniques they advocate for.
Like those Pomodoro sessions we talked about earlier.
Right. If you start your day already feeling more alert and focused, chances are those Pomodoro sessions will be even more productive. You're starting from a higher baseline.
Yeah, you're kind of priming your brain for success. It's a really smart strategy. So, this isn't just a random morning routine that someone came up with. It's a carefully designed component within this larger system, a system designed to optimize how you learn and live.
Exactly. It's a tangible manifestation of those UNOP principles we talked about. A practical example of how they take these complex ideas from neuroscience and translate them into something anyone can use.
I'm so glad we dove into this. It's really opened my eyes to the potential of even these small, science backed tweaks to our daily
Me
routines.
too. It's all about making those small changes that can have a big impact over time.
Absolutely. So, to quickly recap for our listeners, the Bright Mornings UNOP Neuro-Hack is a three-step routine. Greet the light, natural or artificial, do 2 to 3 physiological sighs, and then engage in some mini stretches and vigorous tapping, all in under 2 minutes.
It's amazing how much you can pack into 2 minutes, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
And the potential benefits are huge. Reduced grogginess, increased energy, better mental clarity. All things that most of us would love to have more of, especially in the morning.
And it all comes back to leveraging our body's natural responses to light and breath, using these simple techniques to optimize our state and feel our best.
It really makes you think, right?
Yeah.
What if just incorporating this 2 minute routine could completely transform your mornings, make you feel more energized and focused and ready to tackle the day?
It's definitely worth trying. And as we've discussed, this Bright Mornings routine is just one example of the kind of actionable, science-backed strategies that University 365 offers.
Right. They've got a whole ecosystem of programs and resources based on this UNOP pedagogy, the ULM framework, and tools like LeapES and U Copilot.
It sounds like they've really thought of everything.
They have. They're all about helping people become lifelong learners and really thrive in this rapidly changing world. If this kind of self-optimization, this idea of using science and technology to improve your life, if that appeals to you, I highly recommend checking out their website. They've got tons of great information about UNOP, ULM, and all their different programs.
Amazing how much is out there.
It is. And it's inspiring to think that even these small changes can make such a big difference. As they say, it's about unlocking your full potential.
That's the goal, right? To become the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We hope you found this exploration of morning optimization helpful and inspiring. Until next time,
See ya.
bye everyone.